So today we're making prawns with Nigella seeds. Not the woman, but the seeds. Today we're cooking prawns with Nigella seeds. Nigella seeds are the head note spice of choice with fish dishes in India. And so we start very quickly with a little bit of oil in the pan, just enough for us to drop our Nigella seeds in so that they can start to sizzle and release their aromatic oils. Now, Nigella seeds tend to go hand in hand with green chilies in Indian cookery. The seeds themselves give quite a kind of oniony, toasted flavour, but they're all dark, gruff flavours, and so to elevate the dish, we tend to use a green chilli and coriander towards the end. These are the tools in the Indian kitchen that are going to raise the dish from the earthy, deep notes to something green and fresh. Chilies, green, and coriander. So, now, spitting nicely, we then start to create the fish sauce. Very simple. It's kind of a tangy tomato sauce, this. A little bit of chopped tomato. And we let that bubble away. Now remember, we want the oils to come out of the tomatoes. We want the tomatoes to separate out and caramelise. So we have to wait for that. This is where you really have to be patient with these fish dishes. Now we're waiting for the tomatoes to caramelise. This is a very, very important part of creating any Indian dish that contains tomatoes. We want to draw out of those tomatoes the sharpness and the sweetness and bring them to the front of the mouth instead of being buried away back in the tomato somewhere. Because remember, the fish, it's quite a placid ingredient, and it's going to go in there, and it really does need a lot of work doing with it in Indian dishes. So we wait for the oil to percolate up through the tomatoes and form almost a kind of golden film on the top, and that's how we know that it's done its magic. So come and have a look at this and see what you think. Can you see the oil is beginning to bubble up to the top here? So we're kind of almost there. And have a look at the chilli. The chilli is only in half. If you chop a chilli finely and you put it into a dish, you're going to create a lot of heat. It's not just greenness. If you just break it in half, all you're doing is getting some of those green essences to flow through the dish to almost leaven it a little bit, because we've got some dark, gruff flavours in here with the Nigella seeds, which are musty. And I'm going to put some turmeric in next, because remember, my curries have 3 spices: turmeric, an earthy root, and a little hint of chili powder, just to add a little bit more flavour, not heat. The chili powder I don't add for the sake of heat. So the turmeric again has gone in there, and we're waiting for the flavours to combine and just give those tomatoes time to really bubble through. Okay, come and look at this. You can tell that we're ready for the next stage, because can you see the oil at the side of the pans has turned red? So everything has combined as we want it to. Now we go to the next stage of creating the sauce, and I'm going to add a little bit of just watered down English mustard. Now this is a very common ingredient in India, and certainly in certain areas of India, like in the Bengal, where they do cook an awful lot of fish. English mustard works brilliantly with fish. I think in this country we seem to think that it's relegated solely to the world of beef, but in India, it is something that's used very widely in dishes. And what they do is they get the seeds, the mustard seeds, and they grind them between 2 stones, and you then get this yellow paste. So that is how you make mustard. You grind seeds into the paste, but here Mr. Coleman's has done the work for us. And so we add the mustard paste in. We then put our final finishing flavours into the sauce. A little bit of salt for seasoning, and perhaps a tiny bit of sweet, just to satisfy that area of the tongue. And we're almost ready to put the prawns in. You see, the prawns are already cooked. Ideally, I would be using uncooked prawns in the shell with a belly full of eggs. That's how we like them in India, but I know that in England we would freak in the face of such an abhorrence in a pan. So I've just bought some tail on peeled prawns. They then go in and just allow them to combine in with the sauce. And then we're coming right to the end of this dish. So basically, as soon as the prawns have heated through and there's that sort of gentle application of the flavourings to the seafood, it's done. You don't want them to overdo, you don't want them to become leathery, and our parting shot is a good handful of coriander. And coriander, again, to a dish that contains a number of ground dried spices, it's calling for someone almost to open a window on the dish, and that's what coriander does. It brings in a breath of fresh air, coriander and green chilli. And so we are done. I'm just going to tip it into this bowl and I'm going to try one. So quick. I mean, that has got every flavour going on. Absolutely phenomenal, and it was ready in minutes. This combination of Nigella, mustard paste, tomato and green chilli, it's just a time-proven formula that has been passed on from millennia. That's a way that we very often cook fish in India, and I can see why. It is absolutely spectacular. I even eat the tail.